Well, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. How was your weekend? Hope it was restful, and hope that it was easy for you to get all that you needed as far as the kitchen is concerned when it comes to maintaining the household. And that begins to tell you that we're going to be talking about the rising prices of food this morning, and the nexus between that and insecurity, if indeed there is any. The fact that people are poor, does it automatically mean that there will then be insecurity in the land? Many Nigerians recount how they grew up, quite frankly, poor. But we don't hear of those times when there was insecurity in the land. So the insecurity in the land, is it a separate thing, or is it connected to the rising food prices? Experts are saying that prices have been rising, in the last 6 months. They've just been rising inexorably. And very few people can really afford to continue to consume what they used to consume before because incomes are static. Okay, let's talk about this. We have a couple of experts. Let me introduce Dr. Victor Ohai. Dr. Ohai is an African affairs analyst. Thank you very much, as always, for coming on. He keeps his eye on the polity as well. But this one is, maybe there's an African connection to it, or is this thing that, this situation that I've described, is it peculiar to Nigeria? And then we also have a scientist with us, Mr. Solomon Oyeniro. He is the CEO of Osoa Foods and agro-foods processing expert. That indeed is what it is.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it is our pleasure to have you. Where you will come in is that, are we growing the food and we are not able to store it for a rainy day, very much as a bank would, conserve some resources for a rainy day? There will be aspects of that you'll talk about. But let me start out on the, if you will, the sort of the sociological aspect to this. I was making the point, and I'm sure you're aware of it, that many Nigerians even almost took a pride in saying they came from very humble beginnings. Today they might be professors, today they might be, economists, but it's like there was no shame in saying that, well, things were poor. Former President Goodluck Jonathan spoke about not wearing shoes until a given age. Surely that couldn't have been as a result of affluence, but still, look at where it took him. So those kind of scenarios, my worry is, is there an automatic nexus in what we have on our hands nowadays between the troubles in the land, the kidnappings, the armed robberies, the banditry, and rising food prices?
Thank you very much. I'm glad you talked about starting from a sociological point of view and looking at our background and where we're coming from, and wondering if the fact that one comes from a poor background, therefore, would that necessarily
all of you become criminals?
To a criminal or to a bandit and all that. Yes, our parents may not have been rich in terms of cash, but even at the time, there was such a thing known as subsistence farming.
Yes.
Even if you're not doing it on a large scale, on a mechanical scale and all that. So
subsistence farming.
Subsistence farming, like the word says, meant that they could, live on what they were, tilling on the land, because and have a little extra, to
because
be able to
people
sell.
even had a backyard farm.
Exactly.
For vegetables and the like.
Exactly. And they had little barns as well where they could keep what they were. So people didn't go hungry, for sure. They may not have been able to buy cars, and it didn't necessarily breed criminals because, people were just content. They lived their lives very simply. We had good values and all of that. But in terms of what's happening today, we would have to look at the fact that one of the most important resource that we have, or let me just say two of them, land and water.
Mm-hmm.
And so even where there's land, if water begins to dry up, then people begin to move towards where there is land. Now I'm going to issues of climate change and related issues.
Global warming
And all of that. So you would have noticed the pressure that started when up north. Yes, we had River Kaduna, we had Rano River and Kano. We had some rivers up north and all that, but we also had the Lake Chad, which started drying up. And usually during the dry season, the herdsmen, for instance, would naturally want to migrate to places where they can get, water and pasture for their livestock. And usually sometimes when they move, they settle. So things like this begin to put pressure on, a place like, for instance, the Middle Belt. It's important for us to begin to look. So land is a very valuable commodity. So you find that people started moving, naturally, because I'm not even talking about Sahara now. Let's just talk about Nigeria where, so that began to put pressure. And where you begin to see the resource being scarce, naturally you begin to see conflicts. They naturally breed conflicts. And these conflicts begin to escalate because people want to, we'll talk about it a little more.
Yeah.
But going to the main topic of the day, which is the nexus between food insecurity, food insecurity,
food scarcity,
and food scarcity
via rising food prices,
yes,
and insecurity.
Yes, it's so obvious. You can see that from what started happening from Boko Haram and all of that, all the banditry in the north and all, where whole villages were sacked. And don't forget that was the mainstay of most of these villages, farming. Farming.
So
in the north, farming is huge.
Exactly.
Yes, we had refugees, internally displaced persons, and then apart from these internally displaced persons, people were dislocated from their normal habitat, where they had land rights, where they could go and farm. So they were dislodged from this place, and so they could not go to farm. And so a lot of this has happened, and consequently, you find a situation where it also has a telling effect on, the harvest, in the following year and all that. And it's like, how do I put it now? It's like, how do you put like chicken and the egg, which one comes first? We have a vicious circle, actually, it's a language out there. It's a vicious circle. So whether we like it or not, we can see the consequences of this terrorism, banditry, sacking of these villages, and of the farmers from their natural, where they had land rights.
Yes.
And what is happening.
It was a normal profession of our people to go to the farm.
Yes.
The entire family was involved.
Yes.
And things have certainly changed. Experts are saying that food prices have surged by over 50% in the past year, Mr. Oyeniro. And what's the role of food conservation technology, or is it so bad that those indices don't figure anymore?
Yeah, thank you. The insecurity that we have in Nigeria has really exacerbated so many things, including poverty and lack of income of the people, the ability to earn of our people. So
you're talking about the farming community, which is a substantial community in Nigeria, yes. Right?
Yes.
Their livelihood has been taken away because of insecurity.
Yes.
People are fearful. They can't go to the farm.
They can't go to the farm. And you can agree with me that recently, in the last, after the president has settled, is when this insecurity begins again. Towards the electioneering time and some other things, we have a lesson of insecurity and banditry and the Boko Haram. Then now, it's upsurge. It's certainly, you just find that insecurity is everywhere, not only in the northeast or in the northwest, it's cascading down to the south. And what's really, it's everything is a chain. if there is insecurity, as Prof has said, it's going to come on food, because nobody will be able to go to farm. So the little produce that is coming down is going to be competitive.
The forces of demand and supply will just kick
It's
the
going
price
to be
upward.
competitive.
And so that the ordinary man can barely afford to feed his family.
Yeah.
The ordinary man. And Dr. Hai was talking about subsistence. You went and affected me with that. Subsistence farming.
Good for you.
You know, what are there big agro farming operations in Nigeria as well? Because the subsistence farming, yes, it has its own part, but that is not the way forward, and people have known it and have been working on it for a while, that we need farming on an industrial scale. Has this insecurity radically affected that as well?
Yes, I think we should be looking at, thank God that the new administration, as we now have somebody that is knowledgeable on as the executive director of a Nigerian Stored Product Research Institute, Professor Lateef Soni, who is the executive director of that. So if in situations like this, all stakeholders must come together. When we have, but there are seasons in life, when we have bountiful harvest and some other things, we need to preserve all these foods. We need to look at cold chain storage preservations. We need to look at dry preservations. We need to look at all these things so that in seasons where there is, we think, like for example, when we have no tomato, there are seasons where vegetables come, and so this institute and institute of government that we have, the Stored Research Institute, and they just push all these things out to the populace.
But looking at the pictures that we're showing right now, it looks like a bountiful, the markets, it's green, all sorts of greens, the yams, the pictures that just went by. It does, some people, maybe foreigners are watching this program and they say, what exactly are these people talking about? Because the markets are full, because these are recent pictures. But I think the emphasis here is on, yes, the little that is available, who can afford it? Those yam tubers. I mean, the malams who sell yams, I don't think it's possible now to buy a tuber for below 1,000 naira. And by the time we're talking about 1,000 naira, it's a miserable specimen of the yams that we used to know.
Yes. For example, there is no, for now, last week, I bought a piece of orange, 50 naira. And after 3 days, I wanted to buy the same piece of orange. I bought it 100 naira. Just one piece. Just 100% about in 3 days.
Yeah, because I'm laughing because when some of us are old enough to know when oranges were sold for a penny. A penny. Sure. A penny. The ones that are bigger.
Yes.
Maybe 2 pence. By the time you get an orange for Toro, 3 pence. No. That one is beginning. So yet people are bringing it to the market. It's just that the prices have gone through the roof. Now, the nexus between this and insecurity is what we're really exploring, and maybe look at what ideas exist to bring us out of this situation. Or is it a matter of, sorry, there's nothing that can be done until the society shapes up, meaning that we don't have kidnappers all over the place. We don't have armed robbers, and the problem of the cattle herders and the cattle rearers have been solved. There was a time we spent a lot of time talking about ranching. But then it's not working because a lot of people are saying, look, My ancestors have been doing it for thousands of years the way we are doing it now, and so there's a pushback on all of that.
Okay, so two things. First of all, I have a story to share.
Sure.
About a farmer I know personally. This is first-hand information, not someone who knows him telling me. This guy has close to 100 hectares or so.
100 hectares?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And he was big into farming. The last time I spoke to him, I just asked casually, because amongst other things, he also does, I got honey from him. It was from him I learned that, you know, the taste of honey can be different depending on the tree and the, and the pollen in the area and all that. So I was like, I still remembered the gift he gave me at the time. I was just asking about his farm. I hadn't spoken to him for a while. He said, sorry, farm is gone. I asked why. He said they're not farming there anymore. That they were sacked by, I don't know, it's herders or whatever, but they attacked the farm. They had a farmhouse there with solar, everything. They were completely sacked.
They were sacked.
He has no plan of going back there again. All the workmen, everybody has gone away. Of course, they have their land title, so it means nobody can just go there. But he's not talking about farming anymore. So you can imagine how much.
Did you say 100 or 1,000 hectares?
No, over 100 hectares.
Over 100 hectares.
You know what a hectare is? It's not huge. It's big already. So by normal standards, very big.
Because that would have been a massive investment.
Massive.
Tractors and
everything. So there's loss of employment there. You can imagine the amount of food that would have been produced there and pushed into the market. And by the way, what we saw on TV were imported food. I saw apples. That's all grown in Nigeria. It was imported. So you may see a lot of that. It doesn't mean that it's from the farms. But coming back to the important point here now, there are two things to look at here now. First, and perhaps it should be of interest to government. I've always talked about a strategic grain reserve. I don't know what is happening to that. That could have been something that could have, while we're tackling insecurity, could have been like a buffer for us at a time like this. Then the other thing of interest is the fact that, you see, the reason this is to continue to be expensive is that along the value chain, we have failed to set up, talk about location or localization of industries. Let me use the Benue Basin, for instance, where a lot of oranges are grown, or you look at places like Nsukka, where you get cashew nuts and all that. Have we thought, for instance, about setting up logistics, the processing of the oranges, before, instead of taking them because from the farm, before it gets to Lagos, they've lost almost 80%.
There's so much spoilage.
Almost 80% of it.
And the farmers don't want to lose out.
They
Business people don't want to lose out. So all of that has been lost is going to come onto an orange costing, did you say 50 naira?
Up to 100, that's the last time he bought. But you see, what makes it even more expensive? Usually, if it comes out newly, it might be cheap because they just want to dispose of it. But now, what are you disposing of? There's not enough, which is why the prices are escalating. And these people, there's no method of, no conscious effort at preservation or taking industries close to these bees, these sources, so that we can store them, ready for, companies.
Are we stuck then? Are we stuck in this vicious cycle that you were speaking about? Because what Nigerians want and need, and it is known by the authorities, is an immediate solution to this. But people are going to start talking about medium-term solutions, long-term solutions.
We can discuss all of that.
But what can possibly be done in the interim such that, look, I have, pity parents who send their kids out to school. In our day, you were probably a very good, lucky child if you got maybe 2 or 3 pence to take to school.
Yes.
Nowadays, people, apart from uniform and all of that, now have to maybe find 100 naira is not going to get anywhere, but probably that's what they take. But Mr. George, good morning to you, sir. Thank you for holding on.
Good morning to you and the guest, Uncle Yori.
Good morning.
Uncle Yori, thank you very much for bringing up this topic this morning. I had been noting it that you will bring it up. Now, there is a great debate going on in the society, and that debate is about the price of fuel. Dangote factory has started producing. The factory in Port Harcourt is already prepared to also start producing. Uncle Yeri, I can tell you the reason for the sudden surge of food prices is the removal of fuel subsidy. The greatest palliative that the president can give Nigerians that can effectively replace all these cash transfers and all the rest is to subsidize the fuel price in a way. Now that we have refineries producing in Nigeria, I know that there was this 300,000 or 400,000 barrels per day that was prescribed for local consumption. Let the government give that 400,000 barrels to the refineries at a reduced price, if not free. And then the refineries should sell to the marketers in Naira. Dangote is already registering marketers now. The debate is going on. At what price are we going to sell it? What currency are we going to use for the purchase? How much is Dangote going to buy it from the government? The government needs to, please, if there's anybody listening, they should tell Mr. President that the greatest palliative we can give Nigerians is in this fuel price, and the opportunity for it has just come. If the fuel price is reduced to, say, about half of what we are buying it now, you will see that the price of food items will come down, because all of them, they always say it is the transportation to bring the food from the remote areas that brings up the prices. If the fuel is reduced, take it from me, there will be a relief.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Mr. George, for that contribution. I was going to come to you, your commentary on that, because we've talked about wastages also contributing to the soaring price of foods and all of that.
Yes. What to say is we need cottage industries, more cottage industries in Nigeria. We need, I think the president is looking at bringing in small businesses, which I was in a meeting at VI where LCCI had the chairman of
Chamber of Commerce and Industry.
Yes, where he had they had the chairman of the fiscal reforms and tax reforms and the budget chairman. So what I got from that is that about 100 billion is being allocated for small businesses to rise. So what I'm trying to say is that if we have industries, that small industries that can process foods, I think we are in the right direction.
Yes, but important as it is, these are not fresh ideas. Commentators have been making this point from before Buhari's administration, because there's no shortage of expertise saying the kind of thing that you've been saying. But Dr. Victor Hai, it hasn't gotten us anywhere. And there are some people, call them conspiracy theorists, who are saying that, like the security issue, the sincerity is actually doubtful. The sincerity being brought to the whole matter of, removing insecurity is actually doubtful. I might be segueing off, but people are saying that just let the president give a definitive order that insecurity, all these bandits, all these robbers, all these kidnappers, I give you 3, 4, 5, 6 months. And they said, if such an order were ever given, that we have the military, we have the wherewithal to indeed make a change. But the conspiracy theorists are saying that part of the reason we still continue to have this issue is that if you take that away, then the livelihood of some kind of characters is out of the window. Who is worrying about the livelihood of bad guys? Who is worrying about the livelihood of bad guys? But as I said, it's important to put it in the look. Conspiracy theorists are the people who are theorizing like this. But coming here, as I was making the point, your very good self, himself, and other experts have been telling us that this is the way to go. These cottage industries begin to strengthen the chains, the value chain. And we're talking about farming here. There's poultry. There's poultry. Those ones are crying. These ones are saying it's impossible. Feeds, they can't afford feed anymore.
Even fertilizer, the cost of fertilizer for farming is gone off the roof.
Fisheries? Yes. I don't know where we are. So any way you look at it, when Mr. George called in and said, you know what, everybody's talking about this fuel scarcity and the removing the subsidy. What do you think of his idea that if you could do a sort of a differential pricing, maybe subsidy could come in that sort of a way where I don't know if Nigerians will not abuse it again.
My worry is this, it's important to tackle this problem at the very root. And what I mean by the very root is if you remove all the fuel...
Let me come back to you.
Right.
Let me quickly take a break so that I wouldn't need to interrupt you. Stay with us, please. We'll be right back.